the Non-Techies podcast. I'm your host, tech entrepreneur, executive coach, and Chicago-based MBA, Sophia Matveeva. My aim here is to help you have a great career in the digital age. In a time when even your coffee shop has an app, you simply have to speak tech. On this podcast, I share core technology concepts, help you relate them to business outcomes, and most importantly, share practical advice on what you can do to become a digital leader today. If you want to have a great career in the digital age, this podcast is for you. Hello, smart people. How are you today? I want to begin by thanking the lovely listeners on Spotify who have been giving this podcast 5-star ratings. Thank you, my darlings. If you also listen on Spotify and you haven't yet given the show a rating, then get your phone out right now and give this podcast a rating. You will literally have to press a button with your finger. You don't even have to use your whole hand. That is not a lot of effort to say thank you for free high quality education that I'm providing for you, is it? No, it's not. So please do it. It would really help. And now, the people on Apple Podcasts. What is going on? The Spotify team is definitely beating you. So how about some competitive spirit, and how about showing me and this show some love on Apple? I see that you are listening, but unlike the Spotify audience, you are staying silent. So if you get value from this show, then give some value back with a rating and a review. Honestly, it's going to really help other people, other smart people like you, discover this show, and that will make the world a better and a smarter place. All right, sermon over. I'm assuming you've left a rating and a review. Thank you. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about online communities and community management. We're going to talk about what it is, why it matters, because communities build revenue and they can be a significant contributor to tech valuations if you get them correctly. And there are also job opportunities for non-techies in tech in building engaging online communities. So it's a really, really good opportunity if you want to transition into careers in tech. Today's episode is going to be especially useful for business leaders who want to come up with innovative ideas for growth. It's useful for investors, and it's useful for people who want to transition into careers in tech. And if a career transition into tech is what you want, then I have an announcement for you, my dear smart person. I've made a class for you, and it is literally called How to Transition into a Career in Tech. Yes, I know, brilliant branding. I remember when I began my attempts to get out of the excruciating world of private equity into what I thought was the innovative and lucrative tech world. It is a really interesting sector, and this is why I spend most of my waking hours thinking about it. But that transition, honestly, it was humiliating and it was confusing. I didn't even get responses to many of the jobs that I applied for, and recruiters kept on putting me forward for things that were completely inappropriate. Basically, kind of almost admin level jobs. And at that point in my career, I had gone to one of the world's top colleges. I spoke 3 languages, and I worked for, I think, 5 years in very well-known companies, and I had been promoted. The deals I worked on were literally on the front pages of the Wall Street Journal and the Financial Times. So then being sent jobs that were glorified secretary positions in tech companies, it was absolutely galling. But for more interesting strategic positions in the tech sector, the feedback I kept getting was that I didn't have any relevant experience in a tech company or in a digital part of a traditional business. And to be fair, this was true. But how do you get experience when you need experience to get experience? This is the epitome of the chicken and egg conundrum, and it was so frustrating. So if you're in the same place, do not stress. I understand, but this situation is solvable. You just need to be clever about it. And you're a Tech for Non-Techies listener, so I know that you are clever. In the How to Transition into a Career in Tech class, I go through 5 case studies of how different people transitioned into careers in tech, and I also share how I did it. Each case study comes with question prompts and exercises to help you apply these lessons to your career goals. You'll hear about how people got into product management, into tech investing, and into working in big tech companies, and also a couple of other examples. But honestly, what I really like about this class is that it is very pragmatic. I find that a lot of books and classes on career and business success in general, they're really theoretical. It's like, the advice you get given is like, okay, find work that aligns with your values and build a collaborative culture. But what does that mean in practice? Like, what am I supposed to do? I know that I'm not going to work in a cigarette company, for example, but okay, what else? What should I actually do next? And because I've been through so many of these theoretical trainings and I've been really, really frustrated by them, I want my classes, whether they are on tech and innovation or on the career side of things, to give you practical steps that you can take today to start seeing real changes. This class is 47 minutes long and there is a bunch of bonuses, but if you only watch the class and follow the advice from just one of the lessons that I share in the class, you will start seeing real differences and you'll also break through that impenetrable fog that frankly we all face when we're going through a career transition. You can get the class via the link in the show notes or just go to techfornontechies.co/career-transition-class. That's techfornontechies.co/career-transition-class. But honestly, just the link in the show notes, that's way easier. This class is a paid class, but it is super affordable because I want all the people who need this information to access it. If you've been applying for jobs in tech and you're not getting anywhere, then this class is exactly what you need. So take it and save yourself the headache of more pointless applications, which really are soul destroying. Okay, now let's talk about communities and community management. A thriving and engaged community of customers can help you drive revenue, build a better product, and show you how to market the company in a way that resonates with people. When done right, community management is part of product development and is also part of the marketing team and a huge part of customer success. Having a strong community is literally like having your customer be part of your management team, and that can fuel growth and attract investors. So it's clearly a good thing. This is why it's important for the highest levels of a company to understand what community management is, because it's such an integral part of a successful tech business. So first of all, what is a community? Well, let's forget about tech for a moment and remember that communities of people have been gathering for millennia. A bunch of people coming together to hear Socrates speak in the Athens town square was his community. And Plato, his student, was probably his community manager, which is wild when you think about it. A community is basically a group of people who gather in a place to discuss a thing. It's not a random mob. People come together for a particular reason, whether that's to discuss the meaning of life or a new type of yoga or cloud computing or parenting or whatever. There is a specific reason and a gathering venue. The internet has given us the ability to bring people together in a virtual venue and thus scale our reach and our revenue. Communities are an asset, and that's what makes them even more interesting. What's really important to remember is that communities are an asset. And again, this is not just a tech thing. Let's look at Ivy League colleges. Yes, you go to an Ivy League for an education, but also for the network, i.e. the community. The U Chicago college community is very different to, say, the Harvard college community, even though they are both top global colleges. I know people who had offers from both, and they made their final choice based on the kind of community they wanted to be part of. So different communities have different personalities, and this is really, really important. And actually the biggest mistake that I see business leaders make when it comes to online communities and community management is that they treat their communities as an afterthought, and that basically means that they are not plucking a low-hanging fruit. And this happens because the community inevitably comes into existence after the main product gets built. A community is never step one. It is step 2 or later. And that's why in some companies, community management, it languages in this kind of no man's land of customer service rather than being the business driver that it could be. But no more. Because you're listening to this podcast, you are not going to let delicious or ripening fruit fall to the ground and get eaten by ants. No. Let's go forth and conquer, my dear smart listener. So there is this model which venture capitalists have poured billions of dollars of funding into, and I want you to know about it. This model is called content, community, and commercialization. It is the 3 C's model. Sequoia Capital was very excited about this at some point. And according to the 3 C's model, first, the company creates content. Then a community of people gathers around this content, and then you can sell stuff to those people or to sell data about those people. So for example, there is a fitness influencer called Kayla. First, she created fitness content for her social media channels, and then she grew an absolutely humongous audience. And when she had this humongous audience, she then made an app based on her content, and then she promoted it to her community with great success. So you see, her business model first was content about fitness and nutrition, which she did on social media, so on somebody else's product. That gathered around a great community, and then she commercialized it by creating another product where she basically charges people. The content, community, and commercialization model is obviously true for media and social platforms. But we can use the same lessons for other companies too. And at this point, my dear smart listener, you might think that communities are only relevant for consumer-facing businesses. But you are wrong. Amazon Web Services has community managers. Community management is often super important for SaaS companies, and that's software as a service companies, which often sell to huge enterprises or just do B2B sales to medium-sized companies. In general, consumer-facing businesses, they tend to be the best innovators in terms of marketing and in terms of community management, and also they're the most visible because as consumers, that's what we participate in. And then smart B2B businesses pick up lessons from these B2C companies and apply them to their own growth. And you're a clever person and I want you to do the same thing. So let's do it with Peloton. Let's use Peloton as our example. So first, Peloton had to make the bike and get the super sexy instructors. So customers, people, they would buy the bike to work out. So originally people were not buying the bike because the bike had a community, because it didn't have a community. It was just a bike with hot instructors. But once a customer has the bike or the app, then the community basically helps them to keep using it. So that's better customer retention. And for subscription models, this is really important because retention is basically how you keep on making money. And then eventually the community is what attracts new people to it. So this is an example of how a community helps retain revenue and grow new revenue. So this is why it's so important to investors. And let's think more about the practical example of Peloton. So when choosing exercise equipment, would you rather use one where your friends are, or would you rather have something standalone? And personally, I find working out with other people helps me actually go and do the workout thing, as opposed to sit on my butt and watch TikTok, which I can do for a very long time. And this is why community management, it's part of marketing and sales, and it drives revenue growth and it drives company valuations. So please, for the love of God, do not dismiss how important community management is. But wait, there's more. I know, it just keeps on getting more exciting. This is why you need to leave the show ratings and reviews. I mean, this is gold. Okay, listen, community management is also part of product development. In the tech world, you're always looking for ways to get feedback about your product so you can build a better version next time. And software releases can come out, on Apple for an Apple app, maybe every couple of weeks or even every week. So this is why feedback is so important. And yes, looking at analytics to see what people are doing in your product, that's super helpful and you absolutely must do that. But having a group of people who are using your product and who tell you for free what they love and what they want you to improve is amazing, super valuable information. It's literally like having your customers sitting in your product development meetings. So this is why, my dear smart person, if you have a product and you do not have an active community around it, you are really missing an opportunity. So make creating a thriving community a business goal. And you might say, okay, great, Sophia, I'm in. how am I going to make community management a goal? Well, first, you need a dedicated community manager to do it, because community management is an important non-technical role in a tech company. Community managers often come from customer success, or maybe they have some sort of marketing background. Sometimes they also come from product and design. Most importantly, community managers have to like interacting with humans. So they can't be monosyllabic weirdos, because community managers need to have great people skills, and they have to be outgoing, because often they're the ones starting the conversation. They're the ones starting the engagement in the community. Community management is an example of a role where you have to speak tech, because you have to interact with the product team and the growth hacking team. But you are definitely not a technologist yourself. So for those listening to this show who are at the start or midpoint of their careers, community management can actually be a really great path into product management or into growth hacking in a tech company. It's a great route to transition into a career in tech. And remember, if you want to do that, take the How to Transition into a Career in Tech class, and the link to that is in the show notes for this episode. And by the way, most jobs in tech companies are not technical. In fact, according to Glassdoor, 54% of jobs in tech companies are not technical. Basically, to do most of these jobs well, these people, they have to speak tech rather than do tech. And this part of tech companies, this 54% of tech companies, they are the people that find this podcast and the Tech for Non-Techies membership especially useful. We cannot have an episode about communities and community management without this word of warning about how communities have been used with bad intent. This episode is being released just as WeWork files for bankruptcy. And you might remember that when the real estate company, which Adam Newman presented as a tech company, when they attempted to IPO, they had this weird metric, community adjusted EBITDA. And this metric is total bullshit. Like, it's 100% crap. This metric was there to show growth and value that just didn't exist. Yes, WeWork had a community, but that did not justify a tech company valuation. Remember, we said Socrates had a community. Was he a tech company? No, he was not. WeWork was still an office leasing business. These nonsense metrics is one of the reasons why Wall Street didn't accept the WeWork IPO, and it was one of the dominoes that led to its eventual bankruptcy today. So yes, communities are important. Community management can help you create a brilliant product that users love and to market it to the right people in the right way, and thus to drive significant growth and valuation. But remember, valuation is an afterthought. What's actually really important is to creating a valuable company, a company that has revenue, because you're creating a product and you're creating value for people. Valuation and value are very different things. But that is an aside. Okay, I just want you to remember that an engaged community of users is an asset that should be nourished the way you would nourish your favorite plant. But a community adjusted EBITDA, which is basically a community adjusted revenue metric, that is not a thing. It does not exist, because you either have revenue or you don't have revenue. So basically, don't follow Adam Newman's example. Might sound obvious, but we just couldn't have this episode without that disclaimer. The bottom line from this episode is that if you have a product, or if you have content that people are consuming, build a community around it, because it will drive the business forward. An engaged community is certainly an asset. Just don't try to use weird financial metrics to explain what it is. And if an investor is skeptical about a community being an asset, just tell them to listen to this episode. You know, I'm actually finding that more and more investors are listening to this show, which I think is a good thing, because as an investor, the more you understand the tech companies that you're investing in, and the more you see what digital transformation means in practice, the better decisions you can make. And you know, these good decisions will make you very rich, which will be quite nice. All right, my dears, this is the end of today's lesson. If you found this episode useful, please let me know by leaving this podcast a rating and a review. It will really make my day, and I will really appreciate it. And if you want to learn to speak tech and thrive as a business leader in the digital age, then come and join Tech for Non-Techies. That is exactly what we help you do. Our members lead digital transformation, they create businesses as non-technical founders, and they become smart money investors. If you also want these results, then come and join us. Go to techfornontechies.co/membership or just check out the link in the show notes. Thank you very much for listening, my dear smart person. I love the time that you spend with me every week, and I'm genuinely grateful for your attention. Thank you so much. Go and have a wonderful day. Enjoy yourself, and I'll be back in your delightful smart ears next week. Ciao.